From the Bear Cave Studio and Learning Center, this is the Accidental Phenomenologist. Someone out there wants your dreams. It's been called creepy, a cult, a conspiracy, a marketing stunt. Known from simple black and white flyers and panicky subreddits, the otherwise anonymous Happy Valley Dream Survey claims a recent spike in bizarre, unexplainable dreams and asks you to call in with a description of your own. And that's just where the weirdness begins. On this episode of the Accidental Phenomenologist, we're taking a look at the mysterious world of dream surveys, and I'll tell you about my own weird, creepy, and frankly enlightening experience with the mysterious dream surveyor. Welcome to episode 1 of the Accidental Phenomenologist, a podcast series on the study of everything. Dreams are easily one of the most universal of lived experiences, an experience we share in fact with other animals. Parrots show signs of REM sleep and have sleep behaviors that suggest dream states. Pet guardians are probably familiar with the milk dreams cats appear to have, nursing on the air and then waking up confused before jumping down to get something to eat. As universal a lived experience as dreams are, they are also among the most mysterious of human experiences. There's something about dreams that has always given us the sneaking, even eerie feeling that our dreams were hiding something deeper, perhaps deep inside our own psyches, or a magic picture show from outside the locked room of our heads. Tractate Berachot in the Talmud records 4th century rabbis discussing the significance of certain dreams, especially while fasting, concluding a dream not interpreted is like a letter not read, adding that the interpretation of the dream creates its meaning. There's something profoundly liberating and burdening about that. As early as 2100 BCE, the Epic of Gilgamesh contained accounts of dream interpretation. The Taoist classic The Zhuangzi recounts the eponymous philosopher dreaming that he was a butterfly, leaving Zhuangzi to ask the question, was he a man dreaming of being a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming of being a man? In episode 3 of season 1 of True Detective, Rust Cole compares the impermanence of life to that of a dream, saying it was all the same dream, a dream that you had inside a locked room, a dream about being a person, and like a lot of dreams, there's a monster at the end of it. Dreams, quite frankly, are spooky. Even at their best, they're odd. They are a lived experience in a world within a world that feels just as real as the waking world, despite the surreal and unreal things going on around us. All of our senses are engaged in this world, just as they would be in the waking world. Space-time becomes distorted, and things take on an uncontrollable emotional intensity. Each dream is unique, uniquely experienced by unique individuals. Try to tell your most vivid dream to someone else. There will always be so much that you can't begin to articulate. My experience of your dream will never be complete. Even when we try to share our dreams, there will always remain something in them that point to the most intimate and most personal parts of our being. Who do you share your dreams with, and why? In April 2015, flyers for the Willamette Valley Dream Survey appeared around Portland, Oregon. The simple black and white flyers asked residents if they had been experiencing strange dreams, mentioning a recent increase in such occurrences, and included a phone number for dreamers to call and leave a detailed account. No further information, no organization is listed, no researcher's name is given. The anonymity of the survey and the unusual topic left many who read them feeling uneasy. Further intrigue arose when someone called the number. A female voice answers as if a voicemail box. This is the recording that you hear.
Thank you for calling the Willamette Valley Dream Survey. Please leave a detailed account of your dream after the tone. Transcripts or audio from your report may be duplicated in other media.
After a tone, only silence followed. Callers never received any follow-up, leaving the purpose of the survey unclear. People who encountered the flyers searched online for more information about the survey and the supposed rise in strange dreams. However, these searches yielded no results. No organization or individual claimed responsibility for the survey, and no one in the area seemed to know anything about it. The only evidence of the survey's existence were the flyers themselves. Local news outlets picked up the story, including the Oregonian newspaper, which attempted to trace the phone number. Surprisingly, the number had been used in the past by a German immersion program in Oregon. However, the program director confirmed the number hadn't been theirs for a long time and denied any association with the survey. The mystery then gained the internet's attention when a Reddit user discovered another connection, a nonprofit organization called Futel. Now, here's where I'm going to refer you to the work of two other YouTubers, Nick Crowley and Nexpo. I'll be referring to them as we go along, and I will put links to their videos on this topic in the description below. They've put together some very well-researched, very well-produced videos synopsizing what little bit we know for sure about these dream surveys, as well as their own experiences calling the dream survey number. So please check those out. So if you watch Nexpo's video, you can see his investigation into Futel and its connection, if any, to the Willamette Valley Dream Survey. Futel preserved public phone booths in the Portland area as an art project. The Futel booths are functional and provided free phone service and included auto-dial-like directories listing various services such as a direct line to the mayor and a voicemail confessional. Intriguingly, the Willamette Valley Dream Survey was listed in these directories. This raised questions about a potential connection between Futel and the survey, though a definitive answer wasn't uncovered. I think the Futel link is interesting, and the strange and unexpected uses these phones offered added more to the mystery of not just who was behind the survey, but also why. Futel, however, is a known and fairly transparent project. They even have a Wikipedia page. Despite a lot of attention being paid to Futel, nothing yielded any concrete evidence to solve the mystery. The case eventually faded from public attention, and while the number that was associated with the Willamette survey functioned until as recently as 2020, when I myself called it, it was no longer in service when I was preparing this video now. The purpose of the survey and the reason for the surveyor's interest in the supposed increase in strange dreams remain complete mysteries. 5 years later, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the media did report a supposed global surge in vivid and disturbing dreams and disturbed sleep behavior in general, starting in March 2020 as lockdowns became widespread. People described experiencing unusually realistic and frightening dreams unlike anything they had before. Publications like National Geographic and the New York Times linked this phenomenon to the anxieties and disruptions caused by the pandemic. Enter the Happy Valley Dream Survey. On April 30th, 2020, a new dream survey appeared. A Reddit post was made with the title, "Saw this strange poster this morning in Utah." The post asked, "Anyone know anything about this?" and had an attached photo of a flyer taped onto a sign. It's essentially the same as the sign for the Willamette Valley Dream Survey, except the new number, the addition of an email address, and the ascription to the Happy Valley Dream Survey, Happy Valley being the name for the area around Las Vegas, which also uses the 725 area code. Now, interestingly, the original poster apparently discovered the flyers in the area of Provo, Utah. Reddit got a case of déjà vu with the familiar flyers, which seemed to copy those of the Willamette Valley Dream Survey, even down to the template of the name of the survey itself. It would be natural to assume that the two were related, perhaps being managed by the same mysterious person or organization. Calling the number, however, revealed major differences. Let's listen.
Please leave a detailed description of your dream at the tone.
First, the message is that of a female robo-voice with an affected British accent instead of Willamette's female human voice with an American accent. Second, the message is shorter and doesn't include Willamette Valley's disclaimer. That disclaimer is missing from Happy Valley, which I think is interesting. The disclaimer to me says Willamette may have been expecting to do something public with the dreams, academic, artistic, etc. This doesn't seem to be part of Happy Valley's plan. Differentiating the two even greater is that Happy Valley is interactive. To the best of my knowledge, callers to the original Willamette Valley Dream Survey left their messages and that was that. All callers to the Happy Valley Dream Survey, on the other hand, report receiving automated thank you texts. I have called a few times over the course of researching the dream surveys, and one constant that I and others have found is this message. Thank you for leaving a voicemail and participating in the Happy Valley Dream Survey. In each case, the thank you message is received as soon as the call ends, so it is clearly automated. Now, some even receive cryptic texts and hang-up calls at random hours. I managed to have a fairly lengthy exchange with the surveyor, which I will share with you in a while. One person received this message. These two numbers are interesting. First, both have area codes associated with Provo, Utah, where the flyers were apparently first seen. Also, both appear to belong to a gentleman who owns a business or several businesses, and one of his businesses sells recipe organizers or something. I've blacked out part of the numbers. Please don't call this guy. But this is why you see in the screenshot the poster asks all of this to promote a cooking app. I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt and assume that he and his business are unrelated. But if you're interested in a deep investigation, it's worth noting, and I'll give my theory on what I think happened in a bit. In any event, responding to the messages can sometimes elicit further messages or even late-night phone calls from the Dream Survey number. If you check online, especially on Reddit, you'll find plenty of these stories. Now, I strongly advise you to check out the video made by Nick Crowley on his channel. Again, I'll give a link to that in the description. He not only gives some good background, but like Nexpo, his video is really well made and you need to check out his experience calling the survey. But I kind of want to summarize his experience here because his is typical of the more interesting experiences that have been shared. He called with his girlfriend and his brother, and they went and bought a burner phone to use, and I totally understand why. Myself, I used a text now number because I wasn't about to use my real number to call a sketchy internet phenomenon. So anyway, they buy a burner phone and they call and give their descriptions, and then immediately they get the automated text message all callers get. Then he texted the number back to try to provoke a response, asking questions, who runs this? At first, there was nothing. But then the next day, he gets a response simply saying, Happy Valley Dream Survey. He tried following up, eventually receiving the message, I'm sorry, my responses are limited. You must ask the right question. He tries asking some other questions before asking, what is the right question? Which led to him receiving another message 9 hours later saying, that is the right question, immediately followed by this enigma, goeh. Nexpo and apparently some others who posted their experiences online likewise received the goeh message. Now, if the rest of this wasn't strange enough, it's the goeh message that really got my attention. But there's a significance that I believe is being missed here. Both Nick Crowley and Nexpo were under the impression that the message is in Haitian Creole after doing an online search and having it returned that it means 5e septembre in Haitian Creole. The problem with that logic is that, yes, septembre means September in Haitian Creole. The machine translation was translating an auto-detected language and then for some reason defaulted to Haitian Creole for its translation rather than English. That's not the same as saying goeh is just synonymous in Haitian Creole for 5e septembre. It's two different languages. No, the real language of the message is Hokkien, also known as Minam, Minamese, Holo, Fujianese, or somewhat reductively Taiwanese. Having spent most of the past 15 years in Asia, having worked quite a bit in Taiwan, traveled in Fujian, I've had plenty of exposure to the language, and I knew what it was as soon as I saw it. I can offer my confirmation that the language is Hokkien, a Sinitic language widely spoken in Fujian province of South China, certain neighborhoods of my second hometown, which is Hong Kong. Incidentally, Hong Kong has a district known as Happy Valley, and also widely spoken around Southeast Asia in Singapore, the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, but most importantly to my point, Taiwan, where it is one of the national languages used in broadcasting and public announcements. I've been there. It's Hokkien, not Haitian. Why am I making such a big deal about this? Well, because I think it's significant. Consider first that the return calls reported by some callers are said to come around 3 a.m. in North America, and that except for the auto-response messages, the surveyor seems to be active between 1:30 and 4:30 a.m. on the east coast of North America, and East Asia is generally 12 hours ahead of the Eastern time zone in the US and Canada. After I made this connection, I also saw that someone on Reddit had already come to the same conclusion, somehow deducing from timestamps on messages they received that the originator was in the UTC+8 time zone. Precisely the time zone in which we find all of the locations I just mentioned where Hokkien is spoken. Perhaps the number actually terminates in Asia, in which case the message contains another important clue that points directly to Taiwan in particular. I know what you're thinking. The number has a Las Vegas area code. It's clearly a Las Vegas number. Digging around online shows that the number is registered to a company, Bandwidth Incorporated, which advertises ultimate control over your global telephony and pre-built voice AI connections. They advertise services including APIs for text messaging, and I wonder if the 2 cookbook numbers we saw earlier were also operated by Bandwidth Incorporated. If so, it's possible that there was a glitch in the system and that the bot accidentally sent out the cookbook messages to those who were supposed to get an auto reply from the Dream Survey. If the Hokkien message is not simply another glitch in the system, it's possible that this is a client of Bandwidth Incorporated who is based in Taiwan. As for the Las Vegas area code, many businesses using services like those offered by Bandwidth use numbers for a specific area code for a variety of reasons, such as for the use of a business's specific demographic. Living in Hong Kong, I registered for a couple virtual numbers that were associated with the area code of my hometown in the US to make it easier to deal with things like banking. And 3 times a day, 7 days a week, I used to get scam calls that appeared to be US phone numbers linked to an operation in Colorado, but the calls are coming from India. One potential weakness in my argument is, okay, if this is someone in Taiwan or somewhere else in Asia, why the Utah and Nevada area of the US to be specific? With all due respect to the citizens of Provo, Utah, it wouldn't be the first US city to come to my mind if I were to want to run something like this. My point, it is possible that the Happy Valley Dream Survey number is somehow operated by someone in Asia, and I would specifically posit Taiwan for a very good reason. The orthography, the romanization of the phrase goeh goeh. For Hokkien, the romanization invented was known as pehweiji, easily distinguished from other romanizations by its representation of diphthongs such as that OE in goeh, and the tone marks such as that n dot over the E that you see in the screenshot on Nick Crowley's phone. And while it was probably the most successful method of creating a written language for Hokkien, today the pehweiji is largely unknown outside of one country, Taiwan. And while even there the Minam language is largely considered impossible to write, Taiwan boasts a large body of literature in the orthography and organizations promoting its use. Is there a Taiwanese connection? Given my background in this region and how much I love Taiwan, I want so badly for there to be a Taiwanese connection. There's this temptation to make such attributions when faced with such a frustrating lack of other evidence for the origins and purpose of the dream survey. However, I have to admit, it's also just as likely someone went to Google and found a random, unexpected language to add to the mystery they were creating. I'm not a lawyer, but I believe a court of law would consider all of this to be circumstantial and conjectural. God, I want so bad for this connection to be real. But I admit it's not exactly a smoking gun and may just reflect the biases of my experience. Fine, Robbie, but what is the significance for September 5th anyway, I can hear you ask. Again, I don't want to repeat Nexpo, so check his video out, but there was apparently a subreddit, r5 September 2020, which is its own world of crazy, that claimed something of cataclysmic proportions would happen on 5 September 2020. A review of the news of that day shows nothing particularly unusual, but this is where we get theories that the Happy Valley Dream Survey is associated with a doomsday cult. However, in my conversation with the surveyor, there was nothing about apocalyptic events or anything like that. No, the surveyor is interested in promoting what they believe to be an expanded human consciousness or a new awareness of reality, as they see it. And those are not typical themes for doomsday cults, which tend to discourage consciousness expansion and the questioning of reality, but rather a submissive acceptance of reality as interpreted by the leader. While in my experience with the surveyor, they do seem to believe that the majority of people are operating under some sort of illusion that masks the reality of the universe to them, they didn't argue that it was a conspiracy of some sorts, or that it portended cataclysmic events to come. Now, among the more nefarious accusations, there's also a subplot involving the disappearance of the two Redditors who did the first big investigation of the Happy Valley Dream Survey and reported feeling worried and uneasy in their investigation, receiving threatening messages, and then disappearing entirely from Reddit. It's interesting, but I'm not inclined to jump to a lot of conclusions there. And also, Nexpo already did great work covering it in his video, and his is a great channel anyway, so rather than reinvent the wheel or crib off of him, again, look for the link to his video in the description box. So what about my own experience with the Dream Survey? I first called in December 2022, and I received this message. Have you ever questioned the nature of your reality? I didn't receive any other follow-up to my attempts to generate further responses. I never really forgot about it, but also didn't actively pursue it. Then, in February 2024, while researching this episode of the podcast, I decided to give it another try, and I called again, leaving a report of an actual dream I had. I received this message. Ask yourself, who am I? Once you have an answer, reply, and based on your response, we will proceed from there. At first, admittedly, I just gave a BS response. I am a human, just hoping to see what I get in return. Nothing. So I tried again, calling with another real-life dream. Ask yourself, who am I? Once you have an answer, reply, and based on your response, we will proceed from there. Same message. This time I responded with, what does it mean to be me? Nothing. So eventually I responded with, who am I? I gave up. I assumed I wasn't going to get any further. And then, 4 days later, exactly. Okay, I don't want to mess this up, so I take a while to think of my response. I come back with what I think is a legit question. How does one learn who they really are? I get 4 good messages in a row. Now they're talking. It starts by going inward. It is a long journey, but nothing in life is more rewarding. It will be the most important thing you've ever done in your life so far. I guarantee it. Okay, now we're rolling. What to say? I have long suspected dreams were a portal inward. Is there more to it than that? Nothing. Wait, 2 days later. Yes. Okay, how to keep them talking. Now I'm really fascinated. How else can one go inward? Meditation, therapy, drugs all seem too obvious and certainly haven't led to any great global enlightenment considering how many people have tried them. 2 days later at 5:16 a.m. Eastern Time in the US. Wrong. Once you reach a certain point, you just have no interest in whether or not others know that you have reached that point. All of those methods work. That's why you don't hear about how they work, because the people that they worked for no longer care. What you're saying is, yeah, people have tried to use a boat to get off the island, but they never return. Sounds like you're just too scared to try. Ouch. No, I'm up for almost anything, but at this point, we're not dealing with auto-responses anymore. We're clearly dealing with a real person. The disjointed texts, wrong. Sounds like you're just too scared to try. They're not robotic. Someone is giving thought to their replies and refining them in successive messages. Another commenter online also felt some emotion in their response, as if they had touched a nerve. Here, I want to point out that now I'm not playing with the surveyor, and I'm not just interrogating them out of idle curiosity. I'm genuinely interested in hearing what they have to say. So, let's keep going. No, I just wondered if those methods were too cliché. But certainly there's more to it than a drug or therapy or meditation. I'm definitely down to try that or anything if it lives up to the hype. But again, there has to be more to it, right? Also, if one goes inward, if one does leave the island, as you say, how would they know they are truly off the island? Forget the perceptions of others, who cares? How would the inward traveler's life, reality, will, perception, potential, etc. be different? 3 days go by. I guess I blew my chance to join the movement. Wait, a new message. A link. Okay, time out. Why did I mask the link? A few reasons. Before just clicking on random links sent to me by anonymous dream surveyors, I did as much due diligence as I could and took every precaution to ensure I wasn't going to infect any of my devices with malware or give up private information about myself. But I don't want to give away the link and then someone tell me later, hey, thanks for the computer virus. Also, the link is to copyrighted material, which I doubt the host has permission to make available. But the real reason is that, well, I've actually come to respect the surveyor's process here. If they do genuinely believe in some idea they're trying to share with the right people, and they're doing it in a step-by-step, almost initiatic way, I don't want to ruin that for them. So I'm not going to give you the link, but I will tell you this. The link takes you to a PDF of a novel written in 1992. The PDF is hosted on a WordPress.com site that hosts books mainly on anarchism, organized under subheadings like tactic, revolt, anti-racism, ecology. It includes some classics of anarchism, such as works by Piotr Kropotkin and Élisée Reclus, alongside much more modern anarchist literature. Interestingly, one section includes anti-psychiatry literature, such as Abolition Must Include Psychiatry, and something called Descending into Madness, an anarchist nihilist diary of anti-psychiatry. Now here I should also point out, the dream surveyor did not deny therapy or psychiatry as a possible instrument for this inward journey they're advocating. None of the texts in the public-facing directory seem to have anything to do with anything the surveyor had said to me about inward journeys or questioning reality. So I want to say that the survey wanted me to read this book and just happened to find a freely available copy of it here. On the other hand, the novel isn't listed in the public-facing directory, so you'd say somehow the surveyor knew the book was hosted there, but they could have just as easily discovered that from a web search. So I'm still inclined to believe the surveyor is not affiliated with the site and simply provided me with a source for the book, which is really darn thoughtful, if questionable on copyright grounds. Anyway, Still trying not to give you too many clues because, again, I respect the surveyor's process and started to see the value in letting others have the same experience. I'll try to describe the novel, which is available on Amazon in print, Kindle, and audiobook. It might not be a household name, but it's not an obscure self-published screed either. It has a Wikipedia page and won an award. And by the way, the surveyor is not the author of the novel, given that the author passed away in 2018. Also, they're not making any affiliate money by giving links to free PDFs. Now, the book is described as a philosophical novel dealing with questions about self-awareness, culture, cultural bias, and how cultures create a kind of captivity for those who live within them, using the metaphor of a zoo. Of particular philosophic interest to me is how the novel questions cultural myths like human supremacy. The novel can be read as advocating a radical change in the dynamic between humans and our ecology, advocating harmony with nature and sustainable communities. However, I don't think that this is the surveyor's interest. I don't believe they considered it a kind of manifesto. The novel weaves together so many different philosophic lines of inquiry that I think the surveyor's primary interest is in the novel's description of culture as a kind of captivity, which not only shapes and limits our perception of reality, but also actively discourages any serious questioning of reality, consciousness, sentience. This includes constructed realities based on those narratives and myths given to us by our cultures, and how we interpret those constructed realities based on our own experiences. I want you to remember the phrase constructed realities when I get to some theories later. If you want to take a stab at identifying the novel in the comments section, feel free, but I won't necessarily confirm or deny. Anyway, a few days after reviewing the novel, I respond, I feel the novel encourages more cerebral, philosophical questioning, introspection than our earlier mentions of drug use or even psychotherapy. Is it as simple as asking the right questions and interrogating the self? Is something like drug use, therapy, meditation, or dream interpretation a possible adjunct among many? Dreams, though, I do almost sense a mental cartography in my dreams, as if I could map my psyche if only I could get enough detail out of my dreams. In one recent dream experience, I had a literal maze of corridors with handwritten directions on the walls. And this is true, by the way, what I mean by dreams seeming to belie a cartography of the mind in a sense. And also, the dream I mentioned is one I really had and which I think about often. The same day they respond, "You have a fantastic mind." I'm simultaneously flattered and uncomfortable. And as of writing this episode, that's it. I recently attempted to restart the conversation. I wanted to try to shift the conversation into a different set of philosophical questions. So far, I haven't heard back from them, but I will make an update video if I do. It can take them a while to get back to me, and that's one of the ways I know we're dealing with a human and not just automated AI. But the auto responses do give a few more clues. Have you ever questioned the nature of your reality as a quote from Westworld? Specifically, Westworld's head of programming, Bernard Lowe, played by Jeffrey Wright, asks the park's hosts this question to test if they are becoming self-aware, recognizing themselves as created androids in a simulated world with scripted backstories. However, it is the human characters and the viewer who are ultimately forced to question their role in a system created around fantasy within boundaries and parameters decided by others. I'm sorry, my responses are limited. You must ask the right questions. And that is the right question. Come from an exchange in the movie I, Robot, where Detective Spooner, played by Will Smith, is speaking to the hologram of Dr. Lanning, asking, "Is there something you want to say to me?" To which Lanning responds, "I'm sorry, my responses are limited. You must ask the right questions." Detective Spooner, suspecting something more behind Lanning's death, continues to question Lanning's holograms, which responds, "That, detective, is the right question." One person on Reddit reported receiving a quote from Rick and Morty. "What, so everyone's supposed to sleep every single night now? You realize that nighttime makes up half of all time." All three, Rick and Morty, Westworld, iRobot, have in common themes about sentience and consciousness, and also the nature of reality, or what we perceive to be reality. The surveyor shares with these an interest in questioning what does it mean to be alive or even to be human in contexts, especially sociocultural contexts, that impose a certain determinism or fixed constraint on our ability to operate within that context, as well as on our perception of things beyond that context. It's possible that the surveyor would argue that most people are like the eponymous robot or the hosts in Westworld, programmed with narratives and myths and artificial limitations on our free will, but with the potential to transcend above these. The surveyor might also see themselves as a kind of Rick Sanchez, smarter than everyone else around him and burdened by his superior awareness. Among the theories to be found online, the Happy Valley Dream Survey has been speculated to be an ARG, a kind of interactive game using real life and multimedia storytelling, or an art project, or a social experiment, or someone or a group of someones with a philosophical or ideological point to make. I think that the answer can be all of the above. Someone with a genuine philosophical interest in the topics they're discussing, who is using something similar to a game-jacking ARG, art project, social experiment, and using this as a method for stimulating interest in this line of philosophical inquiry. Whoever is behind the Happy Valley Dream Survey, they've put more than a little effort into this. Technologically, it's not the most difficult thing to put together, but I imagine it took some careful thought in terms of design. Perhaps they heard about the original Willamette Dream Survey on Reddit, saw that it hadn't really capitalized on its own mystery, and decided to pick up where it had left off, but this time with a more directed purpose. That of engaging with people the surveyor identified as potentially open to their message of an expanded consciousness. Of course, the Internet of Things being what it is, data mining or a marketing scam are very real possibilities. But I honestly don't believe this to be the case. They didn't try to sell me on anything, nor did they ask me for any personal information. They asked for the dream, the value of which for data mining doesn't seem obvious. After that, it was more of a Socratic process, though often one-sided. If it's a way to harvest working phone numbers, there is a lot of wasted energy behind it. Looking to recruit others for a movement of some kind, yeah, that's possible. It could be seen as a kind of long interview process with the surveyor only engaging people who pass successive interrogative tests. If that's the case, so far I haven't made the cut, nor has anyone else from whom we've heard. I don't know, maybe the disappearing Redditors did make the cut and decided to scrub their accounts to protect the movement they joined. Most of the online theories, even when positing benign motivations, seem to have a degree of cynicism to them. One commenter theorized it was an artist trying to pull off something. The phrase pull off something is indicative of how suspicious we are inclined to be towards the survey given its spooky anonymous manifestation. We don't generally accuse people with good intentions of trying to pull off something. The Happy Valley Dream Survey, appearing to be an imitation of the earlier Willamette Valley Dream Survey, has its own imitators. I've found no fewer than 8 different dream surveys. There are the Luna Dreamline Survey in North Texas since the end of 2021, the Kingston Dream Survey in Ontario, the San Francisco Dream Survey, and most notably since late 2023, the Hope Valley Dream Survey. Now, again, I've blanked out the numbers on these. When I tried to call them, one was somebody's voicemail, and another was a very patient and forgiving gentleman, and another was a reservation line for what I believe was an otherwise unidentified resort or hotel chain. Please don't call these numbers. They're tired of hearing people's dreams about a horse with the head of Scarlett Johansson. The Hope Valley Dream Survey was active as recent as February 2024 when I was researching this episode, and has generated the most buzz of the imitators, getting a write-up on the website of a Sedalia, Missouri radio station called Mix 92.3. Let's call.
Thank you for calling the Hope Valley Dream Survey. Please report your experience after the tone.
The quality of my recording is not great, but I did not add the echo effect. That mind-boggling variation to the Dream Survey model was made by someone who no doubt thought it was really clever. Also, this is obviously an actual human voice, specifically male. On further thought, the echo may have been added to make the voice more jarring for an eerier experience. Immediately after calling, I received this message. Thanks for sharing your dream with us. Sweet dreams. Hope Valley. Now, you may be asking where Hope Valley is. It's nowhere. The number resolves to Sedalia, Missouri, but there's no place name nearby known as Hope Valley. I feel like Hope Valley was chosen to purposely recall the more popular Happy Valley Dream Survey. I don't personally take Hope Valley very seriously. There are no follow-up texts and the funny echo effect. I think it's someone having some fun, maybe seeing if they can replicate the success of the Willamette and Happy Valley Dream Surveys, but then not doing much else with it. Of the 8 dream surveys I found, however, it is the only one other than Happy Valley still functioning. If you've gotten more out of Hope Valley, or Happy Valley for that matter, please let us all know in the comments section below. Mystery is surely what keeps us interested in the dream surveys, but I don't think mystery alone accounts for the attention from online investigators. See the nervousness with which Nick Crowley and Nexpo go to buy their burner phones to call the dream survey. It's not the mystery itself, but this eeriness, the unease created by an anonymous person or persons actively soliciting our dreams, those most intimate revelators of our interior being. In a way, it's almost as if someone was putting up anonymous flyers asking you to send them nude photos of yourself. And then there's the sense of emergent concern created by a recent spike in bizarre, unexplainable dreams. Happy Valley borrowed this phrase from the Willamette survey, but when Happy Valley did it, it was in the beginning of the pandemic with all of its unprecedented uncertainty and anxieties. As I mentioned earlier, many media outlets did claim during the pandemic that there had been an unusual increase in strange, vivid dreams. Many COVID patients in particular apparently did report an increase in strange dreams, even nightmares. Well, fever dreams are a thing, and the uncertainty and anxiety brought about by a new disease and the isolation of quarantines and stay-at-home orders can all quite reasonably lead to stress or even trauma. Traumas that are processed by dreams. However, how do we quantify this supposed increase in strange dreams when dreams are, by their very nature, strange? What I mean is, we have strange dreams all the time. Now, over here, someone say, I heard that lately people have been having strange dreams because of the pandemic. You might say, hey, you know what? I had some strange dreams last night. Of course you did, they're dreams. But the exaggeration and suggested attribution to a major event, such as the pandemic, creates this sense of concern, maybe even fear. Is something or someone influencing our dreams? What is their goal? Maybe even scarier than the goal is the method. How are they doing this? What technology is capable of such a thing? I'm reminded of an article by Benjamin Radford, a research fellow at the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. Radford, writing about moral panics circulating around social media challenges, noted that these phenomena had themes such as the dangers of modern technology and a hidden world of anonymous people who have nothing better to do. You can imagine for a moment that these dream surveys concerned with this supposed spike in strange dreams might know something we don't, and they stand hidden and anonymous to get to the bottom of it, searching our dreams for the keys to bring down this nefarious plan. Or maybe they're seeking the data with which to gauge the results of their own nefarious dream tampering project. What is my theory? First, I think some of the weirder responses, the text in Hokkien, the numbers for a manufacturer of some kind of recipe organizer, and one commenter reporting they received an automated message that they are not in the appropriate region, I think those might have been what I'm calling glitches in the system. Computer errors or crossed wires at Bandwidth Incorporated, which I suspect is the company being used by the surveyor, the recipe organizer maker, and others for automating their communications. That's the business of Bandwidth Incorporated, as I understand it. After collecting the dreams and giving the first initial auto responses, I truly believe we're dealing with a real human being who is giving thought to the dialogue. Maybe an API or something filters out the curiosity seekers and the hang-ups, and then proceeds to hand the more serious inquiries on to a human being. A human being who may be located in East Asia, given the odd times involved in the Hokkien language text. Second, I believe the surveyor has a genuine philosophical project reflecting an interest in self-awareness, questions of reality, culture, identity, perception, and so on, and that they have game-jacked the original Willamette Valley Dream Survey to capitalize on its allure and mystery to generate interest in their own project, which, yes, appears to be an art project and something similar to an ARG, but there's no reason why an art project or an ARG could not be a legitimate vehicle for furthering a legitimate interactive philosophical project. I wouldn't say they're recruiting anyone for a cult so much as recruiting players to continue interacting with the project. Finally, it's important to say that I honestly don't believe there is anything sinister behind the survey. I've seen enough in my life to warrant cynicism and skepticism. I don't believe I'm being naive, and I have a fairly well-developed spidey sense. I think you can safely engage with the dream survey yourself, and if you want, you can even tell them the Accidental Phenomenologist sent you. If you enjoyed this first episode of the Accidental Phenomenologist Podcast, next time it will be on the Mandela effect. Also, coming up on the channel, I'll have the Ask the Phenomenologist segment, the first installment of which will be the long-awaited anxiety video. And for accidental topics, I'll be talking about Diogenes the Cynic and his own philosophical project to, quote, devalue the currency. If any of that sounds intriguing to you, I humbly invite you to like and subscribe, hit the bell so that you'll get notifications when those videos come out. And if you have any suggestions for topics, or maybe you have your own take on the Happy Valley Dream Survey or the other dream surveys, be sure to tell me in the comments. Before I leave, I want to thank the dream surveyor themselves for the conversation, which I have genuinely enjoyed and found intriguing and enlightening. I want to thank all of the Redditors and commenters and YouTube video makers who first introduced me to this and piqued my curiosity about it. And I also want to thank again Nick Crowley and Nexpo for their videos. Those links will be in the description. Until next time, know that your presence here is appreciated. I love you all for it, and I wish you peace.